Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today is the 10th of March. It's Monday, 9:21 in the morning. Our weather's kind of nice today. Sunny, 62 degrees, high of 70, and it's showing sunshine, although my wife has some weather channel she follows that's talking about showers today, but I checked two weather stations and I'm not picking it up. Tomorrow a high is 74 and then Wednesday 79. So we're basically going into summer, right? You know, tomorrow or the day after. I mean, we're basically, I would say, going to summer. So we had an extremely rapid cold spring, which is the weather's so unusual that doesn't trouble me. We probably got, maybe 5 or 8% of the amount of rain we normally get, but the Sea of Galilee's been full to maximum before this lack of rain, so there's a lot of water up here anyway. And the South got a good drenching. They don't have the Sea of Galilee water, I guess. But anyway, so we're headed for, summer harvest, wheat, tears in the wheat, Matthew 13. I just check another weather station. The channel that she uses is wrong a lot in the last 2 months or so, but I'll check another one. No, they're not showing any rain coming in the near. Well, they go out 4 hours, nothing. So I don't know where they're getting this from. I have no idea, but it is what it is, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do today is give you a recap of the events in the Middle East. We're going to cover Egypt, Yemen, the Houthis. We're going to cover Lebanon, the Hezbollah. We're going to cover Gaza, Hamas. We're going to cover Syria. We're going to cover Iraq. We're going to cover Iran. We'll touch on China and Russia a little bit as they are involved in the Middle East. Predominantly, I'm going to be focusing on the Middle East, but of course, Trump is in the middle of this, so we'll be dealing with what Trump is doing and saying as well. A lot of what you're going to pick up from me, you may, I use the word may, not be aware of, because a lot of this is not going into the big channels and the mainstream media. I live here in Israel many years, and I pick up a lot from social media in Israel, from Arab social media, stuff like that, and it talks about a lot of things that they don't want to put in mainstream media. And the big channels avoid it. The big channels are right now hung up on Russia, Ukraine, Trump, and Russia. And that's all well and good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the way you're going to see, the way to look for the path to the fulfillment of the end times prophecies is by paying attention to Israel and the surrounding countries, not so much chasing China and Ukraine and Russia, although it all comes to bear, it has relevance, but you've got to put your focus on the Middle East and Israel, because that's where it's all about in Bible prophecy. And I think you know that. I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream and people are coming in and sound and picture, etc. And I think you know that. I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream and people are coming in and sound and picture. Okay, I'm going to put a few fast posts up, giving people a chance to come in. This won't take long at all. And we'll get going from there. Russia and China are going back, not Russia, Ukraine and Russia are going back and forth, destroying each other. So 1 week it looks like, Russia's ahead of Ukraine, and then a couple of days later, Ukraine's getting over on Russia. So it's nobody is really winning. They're just destroying each other more than anything else. Let me get my email address up there. And that's the way it's been going for years. They're just destroying each other. Trudeau in Canada did lose an election, and some other guy came in, and he's taking a firm stance against Trump and the sanctions like Trudeau was. And I don't know much about this guy, but I imagine we'll find out pretty shortly. Okay, I'm going to do some praise, which is rarely seen on people who say they're Bible believing. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Before I get started, now what you'll find with me is I use the scriptures. Okay? I don't get into dreams and visions and, the Lord spoke to me. It was 8:04 in the morning. I was sitting at my table drinking an herbal tea with milk in it, having toast with honey and butter, and the weather outside was 68 degrees. And that's how they lie to you. Okay? They tell you all these details about what was going on in their life when they got this word from the Lord or this vision or whatever they're trying to sell you on. And that's how they do it. I gotta check this message. I don't know what's going on here. I don't think it's much, but I better take a look. It's nothing. Okay. So I don't do that. Okay. So I'm going to read you a scripture from Mark 16, verse 17. The reason I'm going to read this first, and I'm going to explain to you why I read it. Okay. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. Now, I have never seen a single denomination, and there's 3,500 of these divisions. Remember what Paul said, some of you say you're with Apollos and some of you say you're with Cephas. Paul didn't like that. It's a very, very bad thing. And I never saw or heard of a single one of them putting this in their doctrinal statement, which is a sinful thing to do. In Galatians 5:19-21, it's called variance. And it says those that do variance shall not enter the kingdom of God. It also says that about denominations. They're called seditions there, which is a division. That people that do that will not enter the kingdom of God. Galatians 5:19-21. I'm reading it to you. I didn't say it. You want to shoot the messenger and make yourself feel better, go ahead. But what you're doing is not rejecting me, you're rejecting the scripture. But I've never seen any of these places ever put that in their doctrinal statement. And it's obvious why. In my name you shall cast out devils. Come on, don't you see why? Do I have to tell you? Think about it. Okay. I'm trying to be more sedate today. Okay? Not trying to be drop on you like a ton of bricks. Okay, so we'll start talking about the Middle East and where to start. We'll start with Syria. HTS took over Syria in 11 days. Biden was president, not Trump. It was the end of Biden's days. They swept through the place and they did really good in 11 days. And now, for about a week, fighting has broken out all over Syria over this past weekend. Today's Monday in Israel, Saturday and Sunday. I believe the count of the HTS government security forces that got dead, not wounded, just dead over the weekend, over 2 days, was 215. Security forces would be what they call their police, their military police, whatever they want to call it, you know. Okay, dead. Now, they've been murdering in the streets the Alawites. The Alawites are a very obscure, very small sect of Islam that Bashar Assad adhered to. And I think the Alawites are, for the vast majority, or all of them, are in Syria. And the people in HTS are militant terrorist Sunnis to a great extent, and they didn't like the Alawites at all. And they feel they're compelled by God to kill them. On my YouTube video in the last few days, my Telegram channel, I've put up a number of videos showing what they've done to the Alawites, including shooting them dead in the street and stacking the bodies right there in the street for everybody to see. They've killed thousands of people in the last couple of weeks or so. They have the Alawites get down on all fours and bark like dogs. Sometimes they ride on them. And then when they finish humiliating them, they shoot them. Dead in the street. Trump and Putin are both calling for an emergency UN Security Council meeting over this. See, the mainstream media doesn't want this getting out because they would like to see HTS kill Israel, or at least have a hand in it, being on one side of Israel with a large common border. Now, they've gotten themselves painted into a corner because everybody was screaming, especially Israel and many other countries, many other people around the internet, that these are Al-Qaeda and ISIS idiots that put on a Western business suit, shaved their beard, they trimmed it, and they're basically Al-Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job. That's all they are. They're the same evil, rotten maniacs, and they're continuing their wrath of murder and torture. They've been killing the members of the Bashar Assad government and his supporters since they took over. They've scared the Druze. The Druze have militarized in Syria, the Druze, and they have been fighting the HTS government. Now, when they took over, they only had 70,000 soldiers. Bashar Assad had 300,000, and they fled and ran away. They abandoned weapons, heavy weapons, light weapons, and Israel blew up about 90% of them. Okay, and we've been not at onset. It was about 80%, but right after they took over. But now we've been continually doing it. It's probably about 90 or even higher than 90%. So they don't have much. They did manage to grab a few helicopters. They managed to grab a few tanks. Oh, I don't know. They might have 100 tanks or 50. I don't know. They might have 30. I have no idea how many. They don't have a lot. They don't have missiles. They don't have radar. They don't have anti-aircraft, anti-missile systems. Apparently, they don't have drones. And they might have a few armored vehicles. And they got plenty of guns and RPGs. Small arms, infantry small arms is all they have. They don't have any planes. They don't have any Navy boats. We blew the Navy boats up. Now, there could be a residual 2, 3, 4 Bashar Assad's Navy boats that didn't get destroyed, but I don't think those were Navy boats that were equipped to do anything substantial like launch missiles or attack other ships with anti-ship missiles or anything like that. It might have been simple patrol boats with a 50 caliber on it or something like that. So they are creating an absolute nightmare, a Holocaust in Syria. I'm going to step out for a minute and come back. I'll be very brief. I gotta do something. I'll get right back. It'll be fast. Hold on. Sorry about that. So there's a Holocaust of a limited scale right now going on in Syria. And the media doesn't like this. And the nations don't like this because Israel told them so. And Israel destroyed all their weapons. Now, what they're not going to tell you is if Israel didn't destroy all the weapons that Bashar Assad, the dictator that fled Syria, left behind for his 300,000 soldiers, they wouldn't go around killing a few thousand people. They would have killed tens of thousands of people by now. They're doing a ethnic cleansing. They're killing the Muslims that don't believe the same as they do. So if you wanted to pick a silly analogy, you could say it would be like the Baptists killing the Lutherans. It's like that's silly, but it's sad. I mean, there's a lot of death. and it's daily going on. So some of these groups got scared, and most notably the Druze in southwestern Syria, and Israel built a buffer zone there, coming very close to Damascus. And there has been fighting in Damascus, as in Damascus will be a Runas heap, fighting, So the Druze came to Israel and said, protect us. Israel said, yes. We moved armored columns in. We're building military fortifications in the buffer zone. We've got a lot of heavy equipment there, tanks, mobile artillery, armored vehicles, all sorts of stuff. And of course, we have air cover. We're close to our border. From our planes to take off and get into Syria, from the time they're airborne, is maybe a minute. So we could provide fantastic air cover for our soldiers. So they can't do anything to us. They approached our buffer zone, and we told them to get the heck out of there. And they knew what would happen. You see, tanks don't protect against aircraft with substantial missiles and bombs, and their tanks are, basically cold. They're not modern. They, at best case, they're 30 years old, 25 years old. So we just blow them up. We could hit them with artillery. We could hit them, with towed artillery, mobile artillery, surface to surface. We could hit them with anti-tank missiles that are shoulder fired. We could hit them with Apache helicopters shooting rockets. We could hit them with our aircraft shooting rockets, missiles, and dropping bombs. They have no chance. So they pulled far away from Israel. So we're now protecting the Druze. Okay? And the Druze have formed militias, I would call them, where they're bearing arms with, I think they even have uniforms now. I'm not dead certain they're all uniformed, and they're engaging in firefights, heavy firefights with the HTS. And this is going on all over the country, not just the Druze. Other groups, the Alawites, are trying to fight them now, and have been for some days. They're going to kill all the Alawites. That's their plan. And they're going to kill everybody they can get their hands on that is or was a part of Bashar Assad's regime. And that falls into the category of Hamas and Hezbollah, who were buddies with Bashar Assad. So they got a problem there. And they got the Iranians out of there because the Iranians were backers of Bashar Assad, and they got the Russians out of there. Yet they left the Russian bases intact. And Russia's trying desperately to get their Navy base on the sea in Latakia, Syria, back on the Mediterranean. And it has an air base that's probably a walking distance away, but a long walk. It might be 3-5 miles or something like that. I don't think it's very far. Maybe 10 miles at the most, I guess. Probably less. And there's been fighting on those bases because some of the groups that are getting killed, like the Alawites, were running to these Russian bases to try to get a safe haven, and they were getting slaughtered there anyway. Russia doesn't have much of anything there. A pittance. Nothing. And they're negotiating with HTS, but it's not going anywhere because they know Russia has a mutual defense treaty with Iran. And if they let Russia come in and build up military bases and staff them and stock them with weapons and bring planes and helicopters and tanks and all that, they could open the door for Iran to come in and take over Syria, which Iran would like nothing more than that, because then they could bring, 10,000 missiles in to Syria near our border and unload on us. Do you understand the game? So Russia is a danger to HTS, and it's actually a correct danger. I mean, it's not a, you know, imaginary threat. It's serious because if Iran comes in, they'll bring the Iranian-backed militias that ran into Iraq next door to Syria. They'll bring them with them, and they'll wipe HTS out. Uh, and this is going to be the end of them. They'll wind up getting barking like dogs and getting their heads chopped off. So you have a real mess. Now, this is what I saved for the last here. This HTS regime is murdering, killing, as in dead, Christians in Syria. Bashar Assad left Christians alone. They're killing the Christians. Have the churches in America raised up and spoke about this? No. Why? Your guess is as good as mine, but I haven't heard a single church speak about it. They're killing the Christians. It's like Nigeria, where the Muslims there are killing Christians too. Terrorists, Muslim terrorists. So, you know, this Syria has become a complete nightmare of a mess. So now come the Kurds. So the Kurds in Syria are being attacked by Turkey, who's afraid of the Kurds because he has a lot of Kurds in his own country that don't care for him and would like to get rid of Erdogan, the ruler of Turkey. And they live in northern Syria near the Turkish border. Now, Turkey came in and established a buffer zone in Syria, which I think is about 15 miles wide, specifically to keep the Kurds out. And there's sort of reports that Erdogan's using militias, Iranian, I don't know who they're backed by, not Iranian, various militias. And he's also bringing regular Turkish troops in there, and he's trying to kill the Kurds. So what Israel's doing, the Kurds are up in northeast Syria near the oil fields where the American bases are. So they're trying to build what's called David's Corridor, a swath of land, rectangular, but going up in an angle from southwest to northeast, to attach it to the Kurds, and then we would be protecting the Kurds as well. Would we let Christians flee to this zone and help them? I would say with Netanyahu, 99% he would. Just about 100%. But I haven't heard of them doing that. So the fears we have here is Turkey going into Syria in a large way and setting up shop by Israel's buffer zone and trying to run Israel out or something. The buffer zone is rather large, and it puts the HTS terrorists almost 40 miles away from Israel. Now, we also took back from Syria the Syrian side of the Golan Heights, so we have another buffer zone there too. So we're rather well protected against the numerous junky idiot missiles, the Katyushas, which the most advanced of them go about 18 miles. Most of them go a lot less, and they're not aimable. So they can't lob the Katyusha rockets into Israel. They could probably hit the Druze in the buffer zone and stuff like that, but they can't get into Israel. They need to have medium-range missiles, more serious missiles, which they don't have. And that would require radar, and, they don't have that because we took the radar out in Syria. So there's not a lot of threat. The anti-tank missiles that are shoulder fired that Hezbollah used against us on our border in Lebanon would be of no effect. They go, they're, I don't know, a mile or 2 miles. They don't go far. They're not going to do anything to the nation of Israel. They might hit the buffer zone. Okay? The HTS are fully continuing the fighting because various groups in various cities around Syria were trying to overthrow them, and they're continuing to fight back, and they could get overthrown, which would serve the purpose of then what would happen, in my opinion, would be Turkey would try to come in and create order. Maybe. America wouldn't leave their bases, Israel wouldn't leave the buffer zone, so Turkey could run the risk of irritating America and Israel. So Turkey may not want to try that one. Iran could try to come in, but I don't think Erdogan would let Iran in, and he's covering the northern border of Syria because when Bashar Assad was there, the Kurds were allowed to run around and create problems for Erdogan. So that doesn't look likely. So what all is going to happen over there, in a word, is chaos. We know Syria goes, okay? Damascus becomes a ruinous heap. There's already been fighting in Syria, in Damascus, with HTS and other groups that want to get rid of them. The view from here in Israel is that HTS can't survive. I think they're on the endangered species list because there's so many groups fighting against them, and there's nobody coming to their aid. Before, they were running around massacring people in their Holocaust, their racial cleansing. It's really a religious cleansing. So who the heck's going to hook their wagon to that and help them go out and kill civilians daily, which is what they do? These are psychopathic killers, Al-Qaeda and ISIS. That's all they are. They're lunatics. And they've got control of the country, and they're killing the people on a daily basis. With substantial numbers, and there's no end in sight. They see the Alawites as Bashar Assad's people, and they're afraid of the threat. The other problem they got looming over their head is Putin has Bashar Assad parked in Moscow someplace. And Bashar Assad could be reinstated. And when Bashar Assad was in power, Putin did whatever he wanted in Russia. Yeah, he helped Bashar Assad against ISIS and stuff, but he did what he wanted to, and he built his bases all around Syria. And of course, Putin's friendly with Iran, so if Putin gets a foot in the door, then Iran gets in. If Iran gets in, Iraq gets in. And they want to revert Syria back to being a proxy against Israel. HTS would probably be against Israel if they had weapons, but they don't, so they stay out of Israel's way. They're not stupid. A few good bombing runs on their headquarters and their compounds, and wherever missiles they got in their intel centers, communication centers, administration centers, where their vehicles are, that could happen in 2, 3, 4 hours with Israel. They would easily be overthrown right after that. They would have a life expectancy of at most a week if we did that to them. So that's what's going on in Syria. And Trump and Putin are taking it to the UN Security Council for an emergency meeting. I expect it'll be this week. They haven't announced the date. I imagine the rhetoric is going to run along the lines of we got to stop the killing, we got to stop the racial cleansing. And this is going to publicize to the world what these jackasses, HTS, are really like. And the UN may call for their removal, or it would not phrase that way. The phraseology would be we have to send peacekeepers in there to calm the situation down. So they would send UN peacekeepers in there. That could turn against Israel because they could start saying that they want Erdogan out of Israel, out of Syria. They want Israel out of Syria. They're not going to say they want America out of Syria. But remember, Putin has veto power, and Trump and China have veto power. UK has veto power. So whatever they try to do could likely fall apart. China, Russia, UK, and America acting in unison against this is not highly likely, but possible. HTS has gone too far. They're going to be told they have to cut this stuff out and let everybody live free in peace, or else they won't be in charge. Let's talk about Hamas in Gaza. There's no real sign of any peace treaty coming about, although America went through the notion, Israel went through the notions of sending delegates to Qatar, or they will tomorrow or today or something like that. That's just lip service. Trump went ahead and negotiated directly with Hamas, telling the public that we're not Israel's agent and we can do what we want as well. And I need to open this up to you because it's not what you think it is. It's Trump protecting Netanyahu, and give me a second and I'll open this up to you. It's really not a bad thing for Israel. I gotta squeeze in. Okay. There's a large amount of Israelis that want those hostages back, and they're actually want them back blindly. They don't care what else, just get the hostages back. And Hamas is never giving all the hostages back. They intend to keep them for years. You have to accept this. Because that's their leverage against Israel. Their weapons supply, their ability to inflict damage in Israel is down 98%. They're nothing more than a harassment. Okay? in the last week or so, they've tried, I think, 3 times or 4 times to put missiles into Israel, and the missiles have fallen inside Gaza or failed. And then we bombed the location where they tried to shoot the missile from. So they're trying to reconstruct. They're down from 50,000 with Palestinian Islamic Jihad and a couple other fringe groups down to about 20,000. So their missile people are gone. Their factories to make the missiles are gone. Their stockpiles of missiles are gone. So they're trying to use parts or something and build missiles, and they can't get it going. Okay, we've stopped the flow of weapons going into Gaza a long time ago, and there's nothing they got. Okay, except hostages. They give the hostages up. There's nothing left to stop Israel from carpet bombing them. Nothing. Okay. So Netanyahu can't go there and put the brass knuckles on and start punching them in the face at negotiations. Plus, they won't even negotiate with Israel directly because they consider us dogs and monkeys. So that's how they depict us. So they will. I guess they did have some negotiation with Trump's people. It got nowhere. And then Trump very recently, last day or so, said, I want all the hostages back immediately. Trump is back on, turning Gaza into the Trump land resort, 25 miles long by 6 miles wide. And that would be trillions of dollars for him and his friends that develop casinos and hotels and, all of that stuff, theme parks and water parks. And they'd probably put soccer stadium in there. They're never going to get this done. Okay, prophecy is completely against this. But you've got to listen to me, okay? All you Trumpites better listen hard, because you're going to be in for a very, very rude awakening, and that's an understatement, okay? Trump is defying Jehovah. That land belongs to Israel. It's all through the Bible prophecies, and Trump is taking it for America. Trump is doing the same thing the Muslim states do. And what does the year of recompenses say? Isaiah 34:8. The day of vengeance and the year of recompenses is concerning the controversy of Zion. Trump has gone against Jehovah, and he's not saying, listen, Israel, we'll get Hamas out of there. We'll get the Gazans out of there. Then we'll rebuild Gaza together. And you live there. You put your people back there. America made you give Gaza up in 2008 as a mistake. Now you go back and live there. That's how you're going to have peace. No, he's not saying that. So he's going against Jehovah. Yeah, you can accept that or you could not accept it, but that's the truth. Okay? And they got us to give the land back to them in 2008. It was disgusting. And Trump is not letting Israel have that land back. You got to accept that, okay? Nobody that serves Jehovah and Yeshua HaMashiach is ever going to be president of any country in the world during this age, but the age is very shortly going to close. All right, so that is going to be one of the last triggers for the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, which is America. And that's when people leave. They can't deal with the truth. So Trump's negotiations aren't working. He wants the hostages back. Trump has to develop credibility. We're going to keep talking about this as we go. Right now, what Trump is seen as a big mouth with no delivery. And Trump knows that. And Trump knows he can't take a big war with North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia at the same time, with Belarus and Venezuela and Cuba, and I don't know, Armenia or whatever. He can't handle that. Okay, his changing his NSA around, his CIA around. The military doesn't fight well without NSA and CIA. Believe me. It's changing the Pentagon around. It's changing Justice Department, the FBI around, and the FBI does counterterrorism domestically. So he has to get all this stuff fixed. He's probably got another 4 or 5 months, at least 3 months, till he gets things stabilized with his own people. At least, maybe 6 more months. It's going to be a long time. There's a lot of resistance. They're even threatening to release secret documents. They're driving him crazy. Why didn't Trump inspect Fort Knox yet? Anybody got any ideas about that? I cannot think of a great idea. Do you think that after this amount of time, they've been talking about it, that Elon Musk and Trump don't know at least approximately what amount of gold is in Fort Knox? I can't believe that. How hard would it be for them to send a team of 10 or 20 people quietly declaring it secret to go in and do a quick look around, film the gold, test a little of it, child's play. You think they haven't done that? So why is Trump not talking about it? I don't think Trump would have ever brought the subject up if he knew there was no gold there. I think before he started talking about it, he had somebody check to see if the gold was there. Because if it turns out the gold's not there, then the value of the American dollar is going to go down probably by at least 10 or 15%, maybe 20. Got a problem here. Oh, no, I don't. Everything okay? I'll be careful and taste the steak real carefully before I devour it. Okay. Thanks. Bye. It was my wife. She had some second thoughts. She's going out inspecting the barley, and she cooked me a steak before she left. And she said, I smelled something that wasn't right, but I cooked it well done, and make sure you taste it before you eat it. I don't know if it was anything. I don't know. But okay, so that was the whole trauma there. All right, so the Gaza thing is going to blow, okay? And Netanyahu is dragging it on, possibly because of Ramadan, which is going to probably be over the last day of March or the first day or two of April. It's a month holiday. I believe it started on March 1 and probably be over on the 31st or something like that. Give or take a day or two. Now, I don't know how Netanyahu could be. You got to understand, Netanyahu is a weak person. Okay? Netanyahu will fight only if he's under tremendous, huge, massive pressure. Okay? You have to understand that. Can this lunatic actually fight if he wants to? Yeah, he can. That's the surprising thing. He knows how to do war. Or it knows how to do war. But the tremendous pressure is not there on him right now. Okay? And he's got political problems with the hostages, and Hamas is making its political problems as hard as they can. So that's why Trump intervened, and Trump is threatening him again, and they're telling Trump his threats are worthless and they're ignoring them. Iran, now we got to get into Iran. Yesterday, Iran issued a final warning to Trump and Netanyahu. Okay? And remember, Iran will not negotiate with Trump over the nuclear thing at all. They have no interest in backing off. When you won't negotiate, it means no. It's our way or the highway. Trump hit the highway. Now, the Donald is not the right kind of world leader to pull that kind of a stunt with. I think most of you would agree. Now, you see, Hamas and Iran, and I'll get to the Houthis, them also, are showing the world that Trump is like Biden, a lot of hot air, and you don't have to worry about him. Okay? This means Trump is basically neutered in the world scene. He can't go around and flex muscles. He can't go like Teddy Roosevelt and walk softly and carry a big stick, because his big stick is never going to be used. So nobody listens to him anymore. Do you understand? The only way out of this for Trump, is to pick some targets that he feels his military can handle, where it's not going to go to a World War III, and show the world that he will use force if you push him. He's given Iran Hamas so many warnings about the hostages, and they're ignoring it. The latest feeble attempt was release 10 hostages, which out of 10 living out of the 24 living is almost half. And we'll give you a 60-day ceasefire. And they're saying no. They're saying we will not give you the hostages until you fully withdraw from Israel. After that, we'll negotiate hostage exchange for the prisoners. They'll never give all the hostages. They'll try to keep probably 12 or 15 for years. And they want an international body to come in there and make sure the ceasefire stays permanent. In the meantime, there's no mention of the demilitarization, so they'll go back and get from Egypt. Iran will bring to Egypt weapons, and I would say within 2 months, they would have thousands of missiles that could rain death and destruction on Israel if we don't take them down with our iron domes and stuff, right? So Israel is not that stupid. We know that we're signing our own death warrant if we do that with them. Okay? That's a given. We can't do that. Okay? We can't. We got him where we want him. And Netanyahu is reluctant to crush him. I don't think he works for the God of Israel at all. I think he works for the enemy. I'm convinced of it. And I don't think he's really our friend. I think he's his own friend. And I don't trust the guy. Okay? Why he doesn't go in and crush Hamas is a good question, isn't it? Why is he dragging it out? Does he not want us to have a victory? He doesn't want to see Israel occupy Gaza again. He's never helped us reclaim land. But I'm not here to talk about him. If you got rid of him, the next one would be another Satan body. You'd have the same problem. You'd have a different paint job on the chassis, and it would be the same rotten engine inside. It's a joke. So, what he doesn't know what to do. Netanyahu is devious and mean and a backstabber, and he understands politics, but he doesn't have a lot of smarts in general. People think he does. He doesn't. He makes stupid mistakes constantly. So he's scared now. If he goes after them, they'll kill hostages on the internet. It'll be gruesome. And the public will rise up against him, maybe. Maybe. And his coalition may break apart. And then the Supreme Court, who he's trying to neuter, would accelerate his 3 criminal cases, and he would wind up most likely in prison. So that's why he's not doing it. He doesn't know what to do, and that's what Trump is trying to do, is help him. See, if Trump stirs the pot and makes it go down, then the people in Israel are going to put the blame on Trump, not Netanyahu. And Trump doesn't stand for election in Israel. Okay? So Netanyahu and Trump are on the same page, but they're trying to blow smoke screens at this thing. Okay? Is Hamas smart enough to realize this? Probably. See, Netanyahu should be getting on the TV and explaining to the people with his generals and Mossad and Shin Bet that we're probably never going to get these hostages back alive. And that won't work, because the people will just say, well, try to get 1 or 2 or 3, We got 30-something hostages, I think. And we gave up 1,770-something prisoners for that. See what I mean when I say Netanyahu's weak? He's a weak person. Okay? So the way the game will play, and it will probably play out, is they force the Gazan civilians to leave north of Gaza. Get searched and screened to make sure there's not Hamas in there, but you're talking 2 million people. If they stay in North Gaza, they'll be told that they're responsible for their own death. So most will probably leave. Then you carpet bomb Gaza, which would take a few days, and it's over. Now, according to Trump, he would want to shove 1 million or so Gazan so-called civilians into Egypt and a like amount into Jordan, both of which are adamantly against it. So where is Trump going to put them? I have no idea. If he leaves them in Gaza, he's not going to have his resort. Oh, you could leave 100,000 or 200,000 there, maybe 300,000 to be workers for the reconstruction and to work in the hotels and the restaurants and stuff like that. But you can't leave 2 million there. I don't even think you get 100, 150,000 or something like that for menial labor he could do. Curiously, Israel is now, we're not letting the Gazans come into Israel and work. That was no more, that we're not doing that. So we're giving work permits to the Druze in Syria, and they're going to start coming to work in Israel. They live at peace with Israel. They still have other gods before them, but they don't make war fight with Israel or gyp us or cheat us or rob us. They're pretty okay people to live with, although they are worshiping other gods. And we're not supposed to have people doing that in Israel. That's a basic precept going back to the days of Moses. You can't have that. You shall have no other gods before me. You can't let people in Israel worship false gods. You can't have that. If you do that, Jehovah will be angry, because he says your children will marry them and turn away from me and worship false gods. See? So this is wrong, what Netanyahu is doing. Well, protecting them in Syria that's technically not Israel right now. And, it's kind of a gray area, you know, and it's a convenient excuse for a buffer zone to protect us. So I have to say that's not the same thing as having them in Israel building monuments and churches or religious shrines or worship places to false gods. Now, let's get back to, and we have a ton of Catholic churches all over the place here. We got Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, and a very, very small amount of mainstream churchianity. And you have Messianic congregations, which are nothing more than Jewish churches, so they're not supposed to be, they don't function correctly either. So, when, the only question I have with Gaza is when it blows up. Okay? Now we need to talk about Egypt with 100. I heard it's more than 100,000 soldiers on the border now. Let me see if we can get a figure on that. I heard it was 100,000, but maybe it increased. Let's see. I think there's a very real threat of Egypt attacking us over Gaza. No, I'm not getting any recent anything on that. So it's a violation of the Camp David Accords, and America has to enforce that. And I haven't heard Trump talk about doing anything yet, and that's curious. So Egypt has a lot of trouble. First trouble Egypt has is the Muslim Brotherhood, who would like to get rid of al-Sisi, the leader of Egypt. And they're like Hezbollah and Hamas. They're vicious, psychopathic murderers. Then he has problems with Libya, who had a revolution, and they're not happy with being neighbors with Egypt. And then Sudan is trouble, and people are trying to block the flow of the Nile River more and sort of dry it up. And I don't remember if it's Sudan or if it's Ethiopia. I can't remember, one of those two. So they have a lot of problems. So if they get into a fight with Israel, they could get invaded from their neighbors. It's a mess, okay? If we go into Gaza, they may try to go into Gaza and get us to stop attacking Gaza. So this is a wild card here. We mobilized our reserves. We brought in 400,000 out of 460,000. So our military strength right now is probably 600,000 or something like that. 550, I don't know, something like that. So we're sitting pretty in terms of being prepared. Um, Now, we are and have cut all the humanitarian aid to Gaza. I think we're on day 3, maybe day 4. That would be water, medical, bottled water when we were doing that, medical, food, cooking gas, and maybe vehicle fuel. I'm not sure on vehicle fuel. That's been cut off for a few days now. The Houthis said that if that continues for 4 days, and they warned us, I think, 2 days ago, they're going to resume the attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. And they're going to shoot missiles at Israel. Let me do something. I'll be right back. Where Trump is headed right now is not where Trump wants to go. Trump is got himself facing a fight with the Houthis, with Iran, and Hamas in Gaza, and likely in Syria to protect his bases. But let's go back to what did Iran say. Iran told Trump that if they get attacked by Israel or America, they're going to attack every American base in the Middle East. Now, I will tell you where these bases are, okay? Kuwait, at least 5,000 soldiers there. Bahrain and Qatar, big Navy base in Bahrain, probably 3,000 soldiers or something over there. UAE, we probably have about 5,000 military there. Oman, if we got anything in Oman, it's minuscule, not much. Maybe we got a little bit there. Saudi Arabia, we probably have 5 to 10,000 at least. Jordan is a big hub for our for American military, probably 8, 10, 12,000. I don't know, a lot there. Lebanon, nothing. Iraq, nothing much at all. No, they're not really serious in Iraq. They got a base or two, maybe. Nothing serious. Israel, there's precious little of anything here. And that's about to wrap up. When you add them all up in the Middle East, there's 58,000 American soldiers, military, running around in the Middle East. This is nothing to sneeze at. Now, can Iran hit these places? Well, yes, because they could do things that don't require long range missiles. They can take their missile launching barge boats or converted container ships that launch drones, and they could use shorter range missiles from the Persian Gulf to hit Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and probably Jordan, and they could use the Houthis to hit Jordan and to hit Saudi Arabia and the bases. So they could cause major chaos. If that happens, then Trump would probably have to mobilize another 30 or 40,000 American troops, bring probably 2 aircraft carriers into the theater in addition to the one already here, and they would come with probably each of them would have 4 or 6 destroyers and missile cruisers with it. They'd up the submarines here probably to a half a dozen, and there would be a major onslaught on Iran. But see, the Houthis, when they've already been attacking American warships and taking American Reaper drones down, 32 million a throw, Trump's got them on his list, okay? And so Trump's going to wind up facing a war with Iran, the Houthis, and Hamas, maybe Egypt, maybe not. And that's major. And Trump's not looking for that, but he's going to get it. So Iran gave the final ultimatum to America and Israel. With Israel, they said they were going to hit our nuclear facility at Dimona. I'm not particularly worried about that. I don't believe Israel has any operating long-range radar anymore because we blew it all up that can guide missiles into Dimona or Israel. So the attack might come from Iraq in the form of drones and pot-shot missiles, not radar-guided. Don't know. So a war with Iraq is also on the table for America. Hamas is telling Trump your threats are meaningless, and Iran is, their actions and their words are saying Trump's threats are meaningless. And the Houthis are saying Trump's threats are meaningless. So I think the 4th day that the Houthis gave us could be tomorrow, maybe the day after, and they will start trying to shoot missiles into Israel, which will get taken down 98% of the time or something like that. And they will attempt to hit shipping, any ships that they suspect are going to and from Israel, not just the ship, the shipping line. So if there's a shipping line with 80 vessels and they find one of them went to or from Israel, they'll shoot at all the other 79 vessels, holding them all accountable. So the problem is on Trump, it's massive. It means a deep Middle East entanglement, and that leaves America more vulnerable. And that's the state of the art today. Let me take a look at the live stream. See if I'm getting questions. I try to answer questions. They think they will take to someone else. Oh, you mean they're going to take the people that live in Gaza and put them in other countries. Well, see, where the heck is Trump going to put these people? There's 2 million so-called civilians in Gaza. Okay, if he could get them to to Egypt, he puts them on buses and drives them into Egypt. So they get themselves 200 or 300 buses, and they start shuffling them into Egypt, into tent cities in the Sinai Peninsula, and it would take, oh, I don't know, a month or 2, 3 months or something to shuffle them in. And it's not prophetically going to happen. There's not that much time. The other thing they could do is bring them to other countries, require an airlift, but that'll be tremendously time consuming and very few, it would be slow with airlift and very expensive. Jordan says if you try to bring the Gazans into Jordan, I'll declare war on Israel. And that's basically what Egypt is saying, because they're viewing this as Trump wanting to help Israel. Trump really wants to help Trump and make it into a resort. They don't accept that, or they're too dumb to realize what a fantastic project it would be in reality. But that's what Trump's really after, and that guarantees that this doesn't happen again to Israel. And it's a way for him to conveniently steal Israel's land, making the unclean spirits happy, to reverse prophecy, and do it in a way where it doesn't look like he did it. So what's going to happen to Iran is their nukes are going to get hit. Either Israel or America or both are going to hit the nukes. Probably precious little of the infrastructure. If Israel and or America bombs the ports and piers that Iran has in the Persian Gulf, of course, where they are, that they use to load up oil tankers with oil and natural gas to bring to China, if those get destroyed, well, now China doesn't have a source of gas at a good price. So they will try to stop that. Now, they might also rise up to get that to go away and reverse so they can get their oil. So there is a small chance that China would go to war over that, but I would say it's pretty small. Could happen. China is now conducting naval warship exercises with Russia and Iran near Iran. So this is giving Iran the guts to go tell Trump off repeatedly. See, if Trump lets Hamas and Iran and the Houthis wipe their feet on him, by next week, nobody in the world is going to take Trump seriously. They'll basically want to get rid of Trump. And Trump knows this. So what Trump needs to do is select himself some targets that are going to have big, broad impact. That's not going to cause a lot of blowback, and it ain't going to happen. Iran is in the attack on America. Okay? It's called Assyria. That's Iran today. They're in the attack. So that means that they survive. That means America goes before Iran does. But that doesn't mean that Trump and or Israel won't hit the nuclear facilities or some other parts of Iran first to flare it up. They probably will. The sleeper agents is the big mystery. Trump hasn't said a word about them since he was elected. There's millions of them. And China had up to 350,000 acres, much of which is adjacent to American military bases. China has motive, China has weapons, China has intent, China's it's a mess. The sleeper agents is a mess. And that's one of the reasons Trump doesn't want to go to war. Because he knows that they'll unleash the sleeper agents. Who's they? Russia's got them there. The Russian the Russian gangs in America are part of the Russian government to a great extent, okay? The Chinese got tons of them in America. Iran, I'm sure, has a lot of them in America. North Korea probably has a few. And then you have Muslim terrorist groups that are there. Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Houthis, they got them in there too. They just got to mobilize them. These are the last days of America, not the last months, I don't think. The days are a few weeks, short weeks or something. That's it. So we know Iran's going to be destroyed so bad that the people leave Iran and get scattered into all the nations of the earth. And we know from Amos 9:9 that I'll read to you again. That's what happened to Israel. So he's doing it to them because that's what they want to do to Israel. So Amos 9:9, 2 nines. For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall from the earth. So they're going to get spread into all the nations. This goes back to 70 AD. And all the nations, it says. All the nations. Now, God only has 70 nations in the world. That's how he sees it. Yet, the UN has, I don't know, 200 something, I think. But you read this, spread them into all the nations. Now, you got to read this with Jeremiah 30:11. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all heathen nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So he's saying he's going to make a full end of all the heathen nations he scattered the Israelites into. Now you read this with Amos 9:9. For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. So it's going to be a pretty big wipeout. So there's a lot of dead men walking right now. And people, you know, they don't like it when I do this. Well, what should I do? Not do it and then wait till you get surprised? Would you rather that happen? It's also in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. It's in two places. And this never happened before. Jeremiah 46:28. Fear thou not, O Yaakov, my servant. That's the 12 tribes, Yaakov. Saith Jehovah, for Jacob in English, for I am with thee, I will make a full end of all nations whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee, but will correct thee in measure, yet will I not leave thee altogether unpunished. Believe me, we've been punished every year of October 7th, for instance. We got Netanyahu reigning over us like a terrorist. They got all this red tape and bureaucracy on Israel, and I don't even want to get started on this, you know. It's happening, guys. That's what you guys need to really understand, is it's going to go down any day now. Okay? It's going to go down any day. And they're all unprepared. They're watching Ukraine and Russia, and that's worth watching. There's not a lot in Asia to watch right now. North Korea fired a couple of suspicious missiles in the sea or something, and South Korea's going, you know. They're trying, you see, the demons understand wars and rumors of war, and they're trying to stop the wars. But the nations have drunk the cup of the wrath of the Lord, and that cup is being taken away from Israel, and they're drinking it. That's the deal now. And they don't know what's happening, and it ain't going to stop. Satan doesn't have that power. God sends him delusions. Look at the delusional state of Hamas. They're banking their entire salvation of the 20,000 of them that are left, not their salvation, their life, on the fact that Israel's not going to just pop their cork and say, we're never getting the hostages back, let's go kill them. Never going to work. Iran is sitting there bluffing Trump and Israel. They don't have any long-range radar to guide their missiles. Trump knows it. About a month or so ago, he mentioned it in the news. Trump's well aware they don't have radar to guide missiles in long range, but Trump is also well aware that they have missiles that could probably be launched off of the various hybrid boats they have against Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. They're easy targets right on the water. And the Houthis could hit Jordan, and they could hit Saudi Arabia. Price of oil would go crazy. If they could hit the bases, they could hit the oil refineries. Make it painful to countries. Let's say they don't hit the American bases. They hit the oil refineries in Kuwait. And they say, as long as you have American soldiers on your country, we're going to keep destroying your oil refineries. They do the same to the other countries. Oil would go up, what? $80 a barrel. It would double at least. I don't think Israel's in any real danger of much happening to it right now. The Houthis the other day said, we cut the electricity off late last night or very early this morning in Gaza. I repeat, we canceled the electricity. See, Netanyahu is such a weak person that he's been providing electricity to Gaza during the war coming out of our pocket. It's humorous. It's so ridiculous, it's humorous. Okay? Now, maybe Biden forced them to do it, which is another strike against America for what Biden did. Don't think God forgives that because Trump got elected. If Trump was giving Gaza back to Israel, I think things might start being different for America, but they're not. They're not. So we cut their electricity last night, let's say, or during the nighttime. Here's the problem. They have water desalinizers in Gaza, which I'm rather certain they got from Israel. Stupid Netanyahu again. Gaza wants to be an independent state and make war with Israel, and Netanyahu gives them electricity. Can you imagine that? It's a reality. Can you imagine this? Well, some of you will say the nations were compelling Israel to do that, and you could very well be right. And Netanyahu is such a weak person, he doesn't do anything about it. Okay, well, give me electricity. So all us Israelis are paying high electric bills to support those murderers that want to kill us with electricity. And people think Netanyahu's a good leader. He's a moron. He's a moron, okay? That's why the hostages ain't coming back. He's a moron. He's vicious. He's politically dangerous to his political enemies and stuff. But he's an idiot. Look what he lets himself get stuck doing. For years, we've been paying their electric. Have I heard them cutting their cell phones and the internet? Well, when you cut the electricity, you really knock out the towers for the cell phones, and the internet should go too. Now, Egypt, our enemies, who like to make believe they're our friends, put some cell phone towers or repeater towers near the border between Gaza and Egypt so they could So the water desalinization plants in Gaza are possibly able to run with generators with fuel, but the thought that I picked up from the media this morning in Israel is that we think that the water desalinization plants are going to shut down. What do I mean by that? They take seawater, treat it like a nuclear submarine does, or a big aircraft carrier, and they make it into drinkable water, and you could shower with it, wash dishes, whatever you want to do with it. So they make drinking water for Gaza, and now we're not bringing bottled water in, and we're shutting their water off. So how long are they going to be able to take it? Now, I'm sure that Netanyahu spoke to Trump about this before he did it, and Trump said, yeah, I want my resort. I want Trump world in the Mediterranean, and, cut their power off. Now, does that disable Hamas from waging war? Well, it would if they had any way to wage war left anymore. It doesn't stop them from shooting AK-47s and pistols and RPGs, no. But it would interfere with any more sophisticated weaponry, which they apparently don't have. Now, our intelligence, military intelligence, I believe it was, estimated that Hamas has enough food and probably bottled water to go 6 months because they've been stealing the humanitarian aid all along from the Gazan people. And we're not letting any humanitarian aid in. So I think by tomorrow, the Houthis should start attacking us again, which is going to light things up. It's going to light Trump up because now not only are they laughing at Trump's threats, they're defying them with military action. Trump has to make a move, or he just goes home with his hat in his hand, call all the troops around the world back to America, fight the sanctions, deport the illegals, and try to make America great again and build up a bigger and better military, and then go back out and do it again. But it ain't gonna work either. So things may come to a head later today with the Gazans not being able to get water. Well, forget shower and bathing. Let's stop. Forget that, right? Forget flushing toilets, unless they're flushing toilets with seawater, which could be the case. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of disease. Now, Hamas is going to, you know, give everybody a bottle of all their people, give them a liter of water a day or 2 liters if it gets warmer. And they're going to be okay for a while. I don't know if they got that much water. Maybe they can't go 6 months, but I would assume they go a month anyway. So the situation there got to blow up almost any minute. You understand? No electricity, no humanitarian aid. So the fuel will be out. The hospitals aren't going to be able to. The one hospital running can't run its generator very long without more fuel, and the fuel's not coming in. Vehicles aren't going to be able to run. Hamas is going to be having to use generators to keep their tunnels livable if they're still in the tunnels, and they're going to run out of fuel eventually for that. It's got to blow up, okay? And that's going to bring on Zechariah 12. And the big questions that we're asking ourselves is Malachi 3. Does Elijah begin working with the Levites before the two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John, burn the enemies up surrounding us in the siege on the right hand and the left hand? Probably Elijah starts working first. Does he have the temple or the tabernacle or both? Well, eventually, at one point, we have both. The tabernacle was hid by Jeremiah in Mount Nebo, where Moses saw the promised land and died. And it says that when the Lord shows mercy to Israel, they'll have it back. So it's got to be transported back. I believe it's in Syria, Mount Nebo, I think. Could be in Iraq, I don't know, Saudi Arabia maybe. It's in one of those places. And it has the Ark of the Covenant, and it has the altar of incense and the tabernacle. The Ark, the mercy seat. Now, it might even have the fire that's been going all these years. He hid it in a cave. I don't know if the fire's still going or not, honestly. Don't know. I doubt it. Maybe, but I don't know. I believe the ingredients for the incense are probably not readily available today in Israel, so the I'm sure the altar of incense is probably going to come with some incense. It's a special incense. And you're not allowed to make it for use other than in the temple. You're not allowed to do that. Give me a second here. You'll Okay, Beulah. All right, Beulah. So the Houthis let the cat out of the bag. They said if you want to have a siege, which they interpreted cutting off the humanitarian aid as the siege, we'll give you a siege. No, they're not going to do it by themselves. So the Lebanese government is peeved at Israel, and they're not stopping the Hezbollah from the various maneuvering of weapons and trying to position themselves in the south near our border. So they're going to ultimately side with the Hezbollah to get us out of Lebanon. We have 5 strategic bases inside Lebanon near our border, and they want us out. And that'll stop, and I believe it already has, stopped goods from flowing into Israel through Lebanon. Nobody's going to get in or get out, no goods in and out. Now, aircraft, we'll deal with that in a minute. This is the siege in Zechariah 12. Now comes Iraq. They don't have a border with us, so they're not highly relevant in that regard, but they could be in the siege by using drones and missiles and put troops in other places to help the siege, right? Okay, then comes Jordan. We know they get destroyed. Ammon, northern Jordan, where the capital is, submits to Israel, and they live and prosper. Central and southern Jordan is Moab, and it gets destroyed, but they will be in the siege. So nothing will get in and out from Jordan. And they'll threaten to shoot any aircraft that fly to Israel or from Israel over their airspace. They'll shoot down, focusing on civilian aircraft mostly. Iraq will probably say that also, and will Jordan, and they may mean it, and Lebanon as well. Okay? Saudi Arabia doesn't exactly touch us, but it's very close. And they could do the same thing. No aircraft coming over their airspace going into Israel, and nothing coming out. And of course, Hamas in Gaza, and then we get to Egypt, and they would do the same thing. So now they've got us surrounded, but what about the ocean? A siege is cutting you off, like a boycott, like, you know, China does exercises and they put warships around Taiwan and then they fly planes in their airspace. It's that kind of thing. So they may actually patrol their airspace with aircraft also to protect, to stop any civilian aircraft coming in, taking goods out, or bringing goods in, to break us. You understand? Now, what about the Mediterranean? Because we bring a ton of goods in through the Mediterranean on ships, and planes come in. So there's not a lot of commercial traffic that's essential going by ground to the surrounding countries. It comes in by air, so they could eliminate that. So the planes have to fly in the Mediterranean and come in. How do they stop that? Egypt and Turkey, maybe Iran, although I don't think they got a lot of capability. Predominantly Egypt and Turkey would put warships with Lebanon. They have some ships too off the coast of Israel to stop any vessels from leaving or coming in. Iran could join them, maybe. I don't know if they would or they wouldn't. None of the other countries have much of a navy, really. The Houthis certainly don't. And that's the siege on Israel, and that's when the two witnesses burn the enemies up on the right hand and the left. Now, it's not an invasion. This is what you need to understand. And the church messes you up with all these prophecies from 70 AD and from Gog and Magog that are not for this time, and tell you that's what they are and stuff like that. But we'll go in Zechariah 12. And it says, the burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretches forth the heavens and layeth the foundations of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Well, if they're sieging Israel, they're sieging Judah and Jerusalem. You see, God refers to the land we have now as Judah and Jerusalem, not Israel. Why? Because we don't have all of it, and the 10 tribes called the house of Israel are not here. Okay? So that's how he refers to it. So the siege is on us, but the cup of trembling on them doing it is they're scared. They're quaking in their boots. They're shaking. Okay? They're scared. And let's break this carefully. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling. Now, why would he make, why is it mentioning Jerusalem? Well, we got to drop out here and jump to the next book, Malachi 3, and get a little insight. Behold, I will see, you read Zechariah 12 and 13 together. The chapters and verse numbers are artificial, done by the publishing houses to make the church happy. Or if the church isn't happy, their people don't buy their Bibles and books, and they go bankrupt. Okay. Behold, I will send my Malach messenger, that's Elijah, and he shall prepare the way before me. That's what Elijah does. And Jehovah whom you seek, no, Adonai, that's off the Lord, who you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. Now, that's not New Jerusalem, that's the next temple, and it comes down from heaven, and it's not New Jerusalem. And the holy mountain, Mount Zion, Mount Sion, you would say in Hebrew, is not here now, so it supernaturally pops up. What are we going to build a mountain that's would probably have to be at least 5,000 or 10,000 feet high? How long is that going to take? 3 years? I mean, wake up. Come on, we don't have time for that. Yet suddenly shall come to his temple. If you want to read about the glory of God of Israel, which is Michael, the angel that God put his name in, read Exodus 23 verse, let me read it to you. They never teach you this stuff in the churches. Exodus 23, I hit 24, how about that? Exodus 23 verse 20, I believe. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name, the word for name is Shem, name, is in. Okay, and that word is 7130 in the Hebrew Strong's number, Kerub. And it's in his midst, his middle part. It's in him. The name Jehovah is in him. So what they never teach you is, it many times in Scripture, when it's referring to Jehovah on earth, it's referring to this angel, who I believe is Michael, that God put his name in, and he receives the offerings for Jehovah. This is something they don't even understand. Maybe that's why they don't teach it. Okay. So the word for angel in verse 20 is 4397, and it's Malach, messenger. But this is not Elijah, this is the angel. So now we go back to Zechariah 12. And it says, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trouble. Okay, now we're in verse 3. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Now, when you're cut in pieces, it's a reasonably safe assumption you're dead, right? For all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth, well, it's really all the heathen of the land. Now, I believe that it means the land that he gave to Israel. And that land covenant is Genesis 15, and I don't remember the exact verse, maybe 24 or something like that. It goes from the Euphrates to the Nile, and I'll break that down to you, starting in Africa. Egypt to the east of the Nile, Sudan and South Sudan east of the Nile, Kenya and Uganda east to the Nile. The Nile goes down all the way to Lake Victoria. Going on closer to the coast by the Red Sea, you would have Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti. I think I covered it. And Somalia. Going in the other side of the Red Sea, well, the Israel area, what we got is Turkey, 2/3 of Turkey, roughly. That's west of the Euphrates. Then we got Syria west of the Euphrates, Iraq west of the Euphrates, all of Lebanon, all of Israel that we have today, obviously, right? We would have Jordan, and we would have Saudi Arabia and Yemen. But Yemen is Edom, and a lot of this land is destroyed. We would also have Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Oman. It's about 100 times, rough cut, bigger than Israel today. That's the land grant. And it's these countries that I believe are going to be attacking us. And that gives us a reasonably good match with Psalm 83, which is not more than a prayer of Aesop, a prophet, but it's got an eerie closeness with the land grant and the wars coming. And I'll give you the breakdown. Edom, Yemen is Edom. Ishmaelites are the general Arabs, which are sprinkled around the place. Moab is south, and I would also add middle Jordan. But the Hagarenes are Syria, they're in this. Heai, that's, I don't know how you pronounce that. It's Lebanon. Ammon is North Jordan. Amalek is the Sinai Peninsula. That's where Egypt is parked right now with many soldiers. And we had that land, and Jimmy Carter made us give it back with the Camp David piece of garbage. The Philistines is Gaza. Tyre is Lebanon, and Asher is Iraq's old capital of Assyria. See, Assyria is Assyria. It's Iran, and it can also include Iraq. And we read of the destruction of Elam in Jeremiah 49. That's so massive that all the people living in Elam, Iran, and can include Iraq and Syria too, depending on what historian or cartographer you want to talk to, have to get scattered into every country in the world. That's the prophecy, and the sword chases them and they get killed. They've been awful to Israel for decades, Iran and Iraq and Syria. Okay? And there's some prayer requests. I almost forgot them. Let's go through them very quickly, but thoroughly. TC, Tom Charlie. TC, Tom Charlie. Pray that he knows who Yeshua really is. For TC, Tom Charlie, pray that this person knows who Yeshua really is, the Messiah, Son of God. There's a company named Moderna, and the request is to toss the employees, owners, and managers of Moderna. We have a prayer request for PB, Papa Bravo, PB, and EB, Echo Bravo. PB and EB, the prayer request is for unity in marriage. Don't know what that means, but I respect the request and I put it out there. PB and EB means prayer request for unity in marriage. I guess that they're agreeing about things. I'm assuming. Okay. HR, Hotel Romeo. HR, Hotel Romeo. HR. Prayer request is that HR does good on upcoming job interviews and gets a good job. So HR, Hotel Romeo, HR, does good on upcoming job interviews and gets a good, rewarding job. Okay. Back we go to the scriptures. So now I'm in Zechariah 12. So Jerusalem is a cup of trembling. So why? All right. I forgot to make my point thoroughly. Back into Malachi 3. So behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger. He will prepare the way before me. That's Elijah. That's not the glory of God of Israel. And the Adonai, that is the glory of God of Israel, whom you seek. And the Israelites, the Jews, are well aware of this. The church doesn't really know who the glory of God of Israel is, but the Jews do. Shall suddenly come to his temple. And there's going to be another temple. It's not New Jerusalem. Revelation 21 says there is no temple in New Jerusalem. Even the Malach, the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in, that's Elijah. Behold, he shall come. That's how you read that, in my opinion. Saith Jehovah of hosts. So there's a temple which would be in Jerusalem, and the glory of God is going to go in the temple. Now you know why they're so upset about Jerusalem and they're trembling. This temple came down from heaven. Mount Zion just popped up. Mount Zion, Mount Zion. And the glory of God of Israel is there with all his brightness and glory. And they're scared because the Muslim got crazy doctrines in their Hadith, which is not exactly the Quran. It's an add-on book that a lot of them respect. Most of the Shiites, and they say that the Israelites are going to have a false Messiah, and he's going to tell the Israelites to kill all the Muslims. So they got to fight against him. They call him the Dajjal. I'm not kidding about this. I've covered it several times in the past. So they're going to consider this the Dajjal, and they got to kill him, and they're afraid of him. That's why I believe they're trembling. But they're still going to go through with it. Because if they get killed, they're told they're going to go instantly to paradise and have their 70 virgins. Now, I don't know what happens to the dead women. Do they get 70 gigolos? I never was told. I don't know. It's a mystery of their... Forget it. I'm just kidding. Okay. But who may abide the day of his coming? Now this is talking about Elijah. And who shall stand when he appeareth? Now, what's the word for appearance? 7,200. Ra'ah. Let's see how Strong throws this into English rather than me. I would say appear is quite accurate. To see, but that doesn't go into English well. So when he appears, so people to see him. So it says openly. He's here in Israel, has been for years, as is Apostle John. And they're waiting for the light to go green, we would say, and get equipped. But there you have it. And when he appeareth, okay? 4, he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. It appears to me, without having a solid scripture, but that what's here now is Levi, or what will be left after the purge, which I'm going to cover in a couple of seconds, is going to be Levi in the house of David, which is also in Judah. So it would be Judah. So the house of David is also Judah. So what am I talking about? We go to Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, call Haaretz, that's the Hebrew, saith Jehovah, 2 parts, or 2/3 therein will be cut off and die. That's rather obvious, dead, right? Die, dead. But the 3rd shall be left therein. That's the ones that are going to be left. And I will bring the 3rd part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah is my God. Now, what happens to these 2/3? Well, we'll skip into Malachi 4, verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day cometh that shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and frolic about as the calves of the stall, and you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. That would be the day of vengeance. That's the day that is the end of your recompenses and the end and the beginning of redemption. And we don't face an invasion, so when they're treading them down, under their feet, it's the 2/3. It's not the enemy. The enemy was on the border. These people aren't on the border. They're in Israel. You getting the idea? This is what you got to look forward to. It's wonderful when you get into it, but sadly, the church doesn't teach any of this. I have noticed more people are talking about year of recompenses and year of redemption and day of vengeance even on the social media that I don't know where they picked it up from. I was the only one teaching that. I don't want to blow my horn, but I'm glad they're putting it out there, but they mess it up though. They don't speak it truthfully, but at least they're bringing an awareness of this anyway. So Zechariah 12, what verse? So that's the burdensome stone and the trembling, and it says, for all the people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. So they try to mess with the temple and the glory of God of Israel, I guess, and it doesn't work out well for them. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. See, Levi is in Judah, and the house of David is in Judah, and that's who's here now, the two tribes, Levi and Judah. And they were not divorced from Jehovah. The 10 tribes were, but they could. And the governors of Judah, no, it's the judges of Judah, the judges of prophets, says Elijah and Apostle John. The judges of Judah shall say in their heart, now this translation's botched up, the inhabitants of Jerusalem is their strength in the Lord of hosts, their God. So there's a lot of believers in Jerusalem at this point in time, I assume. That's how I read this. Verse 6, in that day, this is a day, the day of vengeance, will I make the governors of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood. Now this is the judges of Judah, that's the land we have now, like an earth of fire among the wood, like a torch of fire in a sheep. So who do you know has fire coming out of their mouth? It's not that hard to figure this out. They never teach this though, the churches. And they shall devour all the people round about on the right hand and on the left. If you're going to be on the left hand, you'd be in the Mediterranean. And the word devour is better translated burn up. Now remember, it may not be flames coming out of their mouth. The same word can mean lightning. Now when lightning strikes something, it generally causes it to burn up. Okay? It could be either way. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. So the feeble, the old people, the wobbly old people become like David, who killed Goliath, a great warrior. He killed a bear, he killed a lion. That's how the old feeble people are. And the house of David shall be as Elohim, God, as the angel of the Lord before them. That's Michael. He killed, 180,000 in one day? That's how they're going to be. What's going on here? Where's this coming from? Church never tells you. I will. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the heathen nations, or all the heathen that come against Jerusalem. They want to destroy the temple and get the glory of God of Israel and kill the Jews and so forth. Now read what happens. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. Well, what happened? He poured his spirit out on them. On who? On who? On the house of David. Does that make them believers if he pours his spirit out on them? I would think so. I couldn't argue against that. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. And who is that? they stuck a spear in his side and water and blood came out. Okay? And it says, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem. Now, did that ever happen when they killed Yeshua? It says all the families in Israel shall mourn him. It says in the next verse, verse 12, and the land shall mourn every family apart, the family of the house of David. No, that never happened. That's future. Holy Spirit's poured out on them. Their sins are washed away. They're white as snow. And what happens next? They see Yeshua in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power, coming like lightning from the east to the west. Revelation 1:7, every eye shall see him. See, there's an appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, and then much later, like 70 years, there's the return to earth with New Jerusalem. Church confuses that to make you confused, or they don't know any better. In which case, it doesn't make it any better for them. Okay, so this is what you got. Okay, now what happens when they have the Spirit poured out on them and they're believers and they look upon the one whom they have pierced? What happens? Well, we'll go through it. 1 John 3:2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, that word means appear, not return to earth, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is, the risen Christ. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. This was their great hope, because they knew this precedes New Jerusalem in the millennium. This was their great hope. This has been abolished by the churches, all 2 billion members of them. They don't know anything about this. Go try to find it on the internet, other than from me. Now, what else do we know about this? John 6:40. I'm just reading you scriptures, kids. I'm not giving you dreams and visions and bogus junk like the false ones do. John 6:40. And this is the will of him that sent me. This is Jehovah's will. That every one which seeth the Son, and believeth on him, may have everlasting life, and I will raise them up at the last day. So they get everlasting life right then and there. That explains, the child shall die at 100. My people's days shall be like that of a tree. How does this manifest? We go back to Malachi 4. Verse 2. But unto you that fear my name, so the ones that don't fear Jehovah, they're cut off, the 2/3, bye-bye. Shall the Son, S-U-N, in Hebrew it's Shemesh, of righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, not wings. That's Yeshua. That's seeing the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, coming like lightning from the east to the west, sitting at the right hand of power, God the Father. Why is he sitting there? Psalm 110:1. The Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. His enemies are still not yet his footstool, so he's still seated at the right hand of God the Father. And you shall go forth and grow up. What it really says is you shall go forth and frolic about like calves of the stall. Baby calves jumping and bucking when you let them out of the stall. You're going to be young again. My guess is 20, 23, something like that. Around that age. Now, if you're 9 years old, I don't think he's going to make it 2023. You probably stay that way. I don't know everything. So that's going to happen likely this month. Likely, I said. You'll have a whole new body. You're not going to have a spiritual body. You'll still be able to die. But it also says children get tired when they run, but you'll be able to run and not get tired and stuff like that. I'm not even sure we sleep again when we get this new body. I don't know. So the whole world's going to change. It's going to be amazing. And this is when they beat, after this, they beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. At Gog and Magog, it reverses. They reverse their pruning hooks back to spears and their plowshares back to swords. People don't know that. They never think it through. They just trust the guy with the building and the denomination. So that's where we're at, and this could happen momentarily. And the Houthis let it out of the bag the other day. Israel wants a siege, we'll give them a siege. That's it, baby. We're there. So I expect Elijah to start working openly any day, and he'll be with Apostle John. And that's going to be the beginning of the world changing, won't it? And this is the new age with everlasting life. This is Matthew 13, the tares in the wheat. The wheat get plucked up and they're gone. The tares, rather, not the wheat. The wheat get gathered into his barn, which is Israel. And when you get the everlasting life, the trumpet's going to blow. He's going to be in the clouds. You'll go outside. You'll see him. You get the everlasting life, and that will start the next great Exodus, which they don't talk about either. I threw enough at you for one day, I think. Let me see if I have questions in the live stream. So, for us that have the true gospel, we're excited, and that our great hope is coming any day, literally. We can't wait, but we have to wait. And the world has no idea what's really happening because they don't follow their Bible. That's why. I wish they did. So I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. That's important. Pray for healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos, answer more questions. Pray for peace of Jerusalem, and I hope you got something out of it. It would be nice if you hit the thumbs up button. It takes you 2 seconds. You could subscribe too if you want to. That's up to you. And I send my shalom. Remember when Yeshua said, when you go to a house, send your shalom there, your peace. If the Son of Man be there, it will rest on the house. If not, it will return unto you again. You ever hear a church teach that? No. Why? They're afraid you'll do it to the pastor's house and the church. Your peace will come back to you and you'll say, uh-oh. So I send my shalom to all those who love Mashiach. And read your scriptures every day is my advice, and pray every day. Don't let up on that. And it would be nice if you hit the thumbs up button. And I'm out. Thanks.